Okay, candidates, we're about to start. I just wanted to give the heads up to you and to our timers. And all. Oh, okay, K-Top, I'm ready to go. Welcome, and thank you for being with us tonight, Monday, September 19th, 2016. I'm Bonnie Hamlin, a member of the League of Women Voters of Oakland. The League of Women Voters is a trusted membership organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. We do not support or oppose candidates or political parties. The advocacy arm of the League may take position on issues such as ballot measures and legislation, but this forum is presented by the Voter Service and Education arm of the League, which does not take positions nor advocate for them. I'd like to remind everyone that the candidates have all agreed to participate under guidelines set for this forum. The guidelines are also posted outside of this room. As a matter of courtesy, please turn off all electronic devices. Please be aware that campaign literature or other forms of campaigning such as buttons and T-shirts and signs are not permitted inside the forum room in order to maintain neutrality. We are videotaping tonight's forum and broadcasting it through K-Top Channel 10. The video of this forum will also be available on YouTube for the broader community to access. And you can find links to the video on our website, lwvoakland.org, or through votersedge.org. There are 3 forums on the agenda tonight. The first will be for the position of members of the East Bay Regional Park District's Board of Directors, Ward 4. The 3 candidates running for this position are Ellen Corbett, Otis Sanders, and Daniel Chesmore. The second and third forums this evening will be for positions on the AC Transit Board of Directors. There are 2 candidates running for Ward 2, Greg Harper and Russ Tillman, and 2 candidates running for the at-large position, Darlene Jones and Chris Peoples. Let's go over a few ground rules. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes for opening remarks. The order in which the candidates will speak has been determined by drawing lots. The timekeepers will signal candidates with colored signs marked 30 seconds and stop. As audience members arrive, volunteers provide cards for submitting written questions. The questions will be screened to avoid duplication and any personal attacks. The order of answering the questions will be alternated, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question. Again, the timekeepers will signal the candidates. There will be no separate rebuttals. However, candidates may choose to use some of their 1 minute to rebut the response given by another candidate. Following the questions, each candidate will have 1.5 minutes for a closing statement. And now let's begin our first forum with our first candidate, Otis Sanders. Your opening statement will have 1.5 minutes.
Now, yes. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. East Bay Regional Park, I've worked for East Bay Regional Park for over 30 years. And in that period of time, I've seen a lot of change take place. Some good, and some was kind of marginal. But then I decided to run to try to address some of those marginal issues that I saw in the parks. Some of them are directly related to maintenance in the parks, how the parks are kept up and for public use. Some of it is how the parks interact with city agencies and groups and getting young people out into the parks. I believe we can do a better job of that. And I believe I have some ideas on how that communication can start, where the community is communicating to get young people involved. Seniors use the parks. And when seniors use the parks, we need to have the facilities suitable that seniors can get around and use the park in a safe and active way that they can get out and enjoy it better.
Thank you. And now, Daniel Chesmore, you have 1.5 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's an honor to be here, and especially in City Hall, in the city that I call home, Oakland. The city that we live in Oakland, is changing dynamically. The Oakland that we know today is not the Oakland that we knew 30, 40 years ago. It's changed considerably, and every day it's continually changing. But one thing cannot change, our parks. My name is Daniel Chesmore. I'm a senior financial analyst at Planned Parenthood, Northern California. I have a history working as a gay rights activist, bringing national attention to homophobia my partner and I witnessed firsthand for simply holding hands. And that's exactly why I understand many of the issues that my constituents have spoken about, especially in regards to issues in accessibility and equity across our parks. We came up with this hashtag, Park Equity, to actually bring attention to much of the injustices and much of the inequality that exists systemically within the East Bay Regional Park District. There were 2 bodies discovered in our parks month after month in December and January, and the bodies of Omar Gomez Saldana and Eric Dwayne Smith must be commemorated, and we should honor the legacy by addressing the issues of security. I love my community. I'm a board member for 2 schools in Alameda. I serve as board treasurer for Alameda Community Learning Center and NIA Community Learning Center, and I love using my skills in finance to advance an organization. I'm passionate about our parks because I wouldn't be where I am today having graduated as a commencement speaker from the University of California, Berkeley, going off to pursue a career in corporate finance and currently heading a finance department at Planned Parenthood. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Corbett.
Good evening. My name is Ellen Corbett. I should have learned from Otis. Good evening. I'm Ellen Corbett. I'm running for East Bay Regional Park District, Ward 4. I'm an East Bay native. I grew up in the East Bay Regional Park District. Some of my most important lessons were learned in the parks. In fact, it changed the way I looked at the world, and in fact, it has influenced me and inspired me to be the environmental advocate that I still am today. Through my years of public service as a city council member and a mayor and a state assembly member and a senator, I've never forgotten those lessons, and I've been an avid environmentalist because of those early lessons. I want to bring my know-how and my experience that I've learned over the years with me to the East Bay Regional Park District. This is a very important position. The East Bay Parks take care of over 120,000 acres of parkland, over 1,200 miles of trails, and over 40 miles of shoreline. It is very important that we do whatever we can to ensure that they continue to be fiscally sound. We have a beautiful area that we live in, and it's largely because of the open spaces that have been preserved by the East Bay Regional Park District. They have a very important legacy, and I want to continue that legacy to protect our environment and protect our endangered species. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll start with the questions. And again, each candidate will answer each question, and we'll have 1 minute for a response. And we'll start with Otis Sanders. Specifically, what are your qualifications and experience that prepare you to serve as an East Bay Regional Park District Director?
My experience in that I've worked in the parks. I've worked on projects in the parks. I understand how they appropriate funds for different projects, that whether they are projects to improve the parks or projects that come up because of inclement weather. Sometimes we have money that have to be spent to correct things so it won't get better or worse. And make better. I could help with forging better relationships with people who have land and residents that are adjacent to the parks to make those relationships better, and working together with the people to make sure that the parks help preserve their easements and the things that they need to have done so that they can have access to the parks without conflict, help to resolve some of those conflicts. I believe that I could help with some of the management problems when there are employees, management have problems, to help forge some of those issues.
Thank you. Mr. Chesmore.
Hi.
The same question.
Oh,
What are your qualifications
Sure.
and experience that prepare you to serve as an East Bay Regional Park District Director?
Thank you so much for the question. I'm currently the head of financial planning and analysis at Planned Parenthood, Northern California, where I'm proud to use my skills in finance, the background that I've acquired working at large publicly traded companies, as well as managing public funds, to actually do our fiduciary responsibility for this board. I believe it's one thing to have the passion, which I clearly have, but the fiduciary background to make big decisions, balance a budget, build a forecast, that's crucial for the maintenance and upkeep of our parks. aside from my finance background, I have a background in education. I started off my career as a teacher, then my career sort of took off in a spiral direction. After I worked as a teacher, I worked as a charter school consultant, then pursued finance, and I understand firsthand how education can uplift the lives of our community. And we need to work across every institution in our parks district, from the schools to the hospitals to the local groups, to advance all of our communities. Thank you.
Ms. Corbett.
I think my most important qualification is I'm an avid park user. As I mentioned earlier, I spent a lot of time in the parks as a young person, and now that I don't have to spend as much time driving back and forth from Sacramento, I have the opportunity to enjoy the East Bay Regional Parks. I think that my many years of experience in public service allow me to be someone who will be an advocate, someone who will be a listener for the communities. From time to time, we do hear that neighbors are not always taken into consideration with regard to some of the decisions made at the parks. And I do believe, obviously, my record as 100% voting record for the Sierra Club and environmental champion for the California League of Conservation Voters show that I have great experience and love to protect the environment.
Thank you. Now it's time for the second question, and Mr. Chesmore, you will start.
Sure.
Okay. What would you say is the biggest challenge that the Park District is facing currently?
Sure. I think there are multiple challenges facing the Parks District. There are issues in security. We had 2 tragedies month over month. And also in California, we see across our state devastating fires throughout this entire summer. We saw them in San Bernardino, and we also have other epidemics that we need to address. The plague of Zika as well. In San Diego, there were 100 Zika mosquito larvae found in houses, and officials sprayed 100 houses to actually eradicate the threat of Zika. I think since Congress has failed to act on this, we must take a more proactive standpoint at the local level. And I think by using the Parks District to work across a coordinated outlet to have an emergency preparedness plans for future epidemics, that should also be addressed. And that's why fire safety, accessibility, and park equity have been at the top of our campaign. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Ms. Corbett?
I would say, especially, again, based on my past experience, one of the biggest challenges is making sure that we continue to keep the Park District fiscally sound. During tough economic times, unfortunately, parks are one of the first types of public services that get cut. And so, I think making sure that we continue to show the communities that there is transparency, that we are adequately serving the needs of communities. We build that support base that will continue to support the measures that are placed on the ballot from time to time to support, again, the efforts of the district to preserve land. Also, encroachment. Obviously, the Park District has a very important role to protect the open spaces throughout the Bay Area. And it's a very important thing that the district does, and that is protect and acquire properties in order to link them together so that we have great parks.
Thank you. And Mr. Sanders, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing the Park District these days?
Well, I think one here in the Bay Area is fire safety. In other areas, I think that it's getting the communities involved. I don't know how many people who I have worked on at least 12,000 of miles of trails over the years of park land. And the public don't get a chance to get out and use those parks because of accessibility. And I would work hard to try to make sure that people get to use the parks. People know about East Bay Regional Parks, but they don't use it as much. And I think that's because of the way the park reaching out to the communities, getting the underprivileged kids involved and getting other people involved so that they can enjoy the parks. I think the budget is one of the priorities that they have to keep up. I worked on Measure W back when that was needed, and there was a lot of issues that was being addressed. That passed. The parks have been doing well since, and I could help to address those issues as the funding is required.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. And now, Ms. Corbett, you'll start on this question. How can the East Bay Regional Park facilitate the safe use of parks and trails by all? Hikers, bikers, dogs.
Yes, well, that question takes more than a minute to answer, but I'll do my best. Obviously, the Park District has different types of trails. There are multi-use trails. There are single-use trails. There are a lot of amazing uses, as you have noted in your question. I think it's very important to make sure that the Park District does have a good, strong network of multi-use trails that can be used by hikers, dog walkers, people who are riding bikes, and others, equestrians. But it's also important to make sure that we outreach into the community. If we have the opportunity to talk with the various different user groups and satisfy concerns, then we won't have conflicts. We want to head those conflicts off at the beginning as opposed to the end.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Saunders, would you answer that question? How can East Bay Regional Parks facilitate the safe use of parks and trails by all?
I think, well, one thing, East Bay Regional Park have a police force already. They have security in place. The thing that I think is that having the employees to help the public to understand the rules of the parks. Down through the years, there's been a lot of problem with bike riders versus horseback riders. There's been conflicts between horse people and dog people. But having more community forums so that they can come together and talk about the issues that they are facing. Some people want to let the dog run in the creek when it's off limit. So addressing those issues that makes it safe for everybody so that if you're a senior out there walking, you don't want a dog to come up and frighten you. Enforcing those rules that are already in place to help it make safe for everybody. And when it's safe for everybody, we all get a chance to enjoy the parks. But you have to have that line of communication with all people that are participating and using the parks. And when you do that, I think it'll help make the parks safer because people are aware.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Chesmore, your response to that question.
Thank you so much for the question. I think the answer is education. I think we should, rather than criminalize dog owners, for example, we should educate them to understand the biodiversity that exists in our parks, as well as endangered species at risk. For example, the red-tailed frog, endangered species of flora and fauna, and that plethora of information should be available for hikers, bikers, equestrian, horseback riders, for swimmers, and that's what we really should be working on. I fully support educating the public, expanding public outreach, and providing services so that we can uplift the next generation of park stewards, of environmental scientists, of biologists, because the parks provide one thing that nowhere else really can, a tangible learning experience that will outlive each and every single one of us. And that's powerful. That same narrative can really be echoed when we can successfully resonate through education and uplifting our citizens to understanding the harmony that exists through our parks, because the parks can't do it alone. If we were to tackle issues like climate change, we really have to work together in a coordinated fashion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this question will be answered first by Mr. Sanders. What steps would you take to increase user group participation in determining the rules and access for parks? Have you been involved in these efforts through your work or volunteer activities? Yeah,
both through work and volunteer activities. I've been involved in trying to let people know what the rules are in the parks. I've been an employee. I've been asked questions about dog use, where you can fish and what times, but it'll be a collaborative effort to go into the community, boys clubs and faith-based communities, to talk to them about what the parks are, what the rules are in the park, how the parks can be favorable for them to come out and use them. It's a big health thing now. I walk in the parks quite a bit, and I try to stay healthy. That is something that people can use that can help them to be healthier, and it'll be more inclined for the community to come out if they know the information when the parks are open, what the rules in the park. Can they bring a dog? Can they ride the horse? Can we ride the bike? When? Where? And let the public know and inviting them in. I think that will help to enhance park use and the public perception of the parks and the public use of the parks. One other thing, diversity is a big problem that the parks have. They don't have enough diversity, and I think that if the park made a greater effort to get out into the community, that would help the diversity into the parks.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Chesmore, what steps would you take to increase user group participation in determining the rules and access for the parks? And have you been involved in these efforts through your work or volunteer activities?
Sure. So I volunteer in my hometown of East Oakland to plant trees with the Sierra Club. The most active member of that club is actually in the audience. That's my partner, Jose. very modest over there. And so we plant trees to actually combat climate change, pollution, and to improve air quality. I believe that children in Oakland should be just as resourced in terms of their outreach services, and we can make an individual effort to really go about combating these issues at the individual level. And I seek to inspire next generation. As individuals, oftentimes we think that we're underestimated, but we're really not. An individual can go outside and plant a tree that'll outlive one's own life, and that's inspiring. And someone with that passion, someone with that mindset that really wants to bring a new generation to the parks, that literally is the next generation in the parks, I'm very thankful to be here and to talk about these issues.
Thank you. Ms. Corbett, what steps would you take to increase user group participation in determining rules and access for the parks? And have you been involved in these efforts through your work or as a volunteer?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I was very proud of the fact that as a senator and assembly member, I started an idea that a lot of legislators are copying now, and that was town hall in the park. Often legislators invite the community in to ask questions and give thoughts on what direction they'd like that legislator to take. And I instituted town hall. We called it the Walking Town Hall. And every year we would invite the community in to take a walk through one of the East Bay Regional Parks with a naturalist. They had the opportunity to talk to me and do the town hall, but we brought people into the parks. I can't tell you how many people told me, I've never been to this park before. I never thought of coming to this park before. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm coming back. We have plenty of opportunities. We have online opportunities to get people involved. We could do open houses at the parks. We could go into the schools and have contests to bring children into the parks. The sky is the limit, and I think we should be doing more of that.
Thank you very much. So, Daniel, you'll start with, I'll be the first person to respond to this question. What is your position on the use of drones in the park?
My microphone, excuse me. So my position on drones are we shouldn't actually have drones in our parks. I understand that there's that freedom that families want to fly their drones, but however, that poses a direct safety hazard. A lot of times we're not really sure in terms of the aftermath that drones can have, but I think drones can really pose a devastating safety hazard. I think if we can have some outreach and some education and hold more public forums to really teach about some of the dangers of drones, I think we can actually see if we can eventually open up the parks to have drones, but I support the current policy in which drones should not be allowed in the parks.
Thank you very much. Ms. Corbett.
I support the current East Bay Regional Park District policy as well to not allow drones in the parks. We dealt with this issue in the legislature. Many concerns have been raised by the use of drones, not to mention the invasion of people's privacy with drones. There have been situations in the past where drones have been in competition with firefighting apparatus, firefighting flights, those sorts of things. So I agree it's not the place for drones, and it's nice to have a little peace and quiet while you're in the park, and so another reason why drones maybe are not appropriate use in the parks.
Thank you. Like Pokemon Go in the parks. And Mr. Sanders, what is your thoughts about drones in the park?
Well, I think drones is coming to the parks, and I think that my opinion now is that the parks should maintain the rules that they have, but start to the dialogue to talk about where can they be safely flown, what parks can they be safely used in, because I believe it's coming in the future that people are going to have a place to go out and learn how to operate their drones. And I think the parks is going to be one of those places. And they should work on the rules and ways to make them safe and to make that activity safe in what area it end up being. We have a lot of open space that are not within city limits or are close to populations to where people can possibly use those drones, but it has to be determined and worked out before they are allowed to do so.
Thank you very much. This next question will be our last, and then we'll move on to closing statements. And so, Ms. Corbett, you'll go first for this one. The Chabot Gun Club was recently closed. Is it possible that it can reopen? There were people who were very unhappy that it was being closed.
Yes. and I've heard from many people. I know the decision that was made happened after many hearings. I do know in talking to some of the board members that the decision was made primarily because they were concerned about the health impacts of the lead and it leaching into the lake. I do know also, though, that the gun club was used to train people, safety training. A lot of our law enforcement officers used that particular club in order to get their safety training for their work. So I think that there's an opportunity for additional discussion about where the safety training can occur, but I think we also need to tackle this issue of lead in the soil and whether it is leaching into the lake. And in fact, whatever is done, some very serious decisions are going to have to be made on cleanup and how that will occur.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Sanders, your thoughts about the Chabot gun clubs?
Well, my thoughts is the gun club, I've been there and used the gun club myself. But in terms of the lead and the things that are environmentally concerns that had to be addressed with the gun club, I think they're right to close it at this point. The people who may or may not come back and want to try to justify why we should have the gun club. And if it does, I think it will be at a limited use, mostly for safety officers that would go there and train, but not for the public use. The public would probably have to find another place. I don't. And with my experience, the public didn't use that gun club in large numbers. The public used it, but not in numbers to where I would say that a movement to try to get it to reopen, that they have enough support that will make that happen. But I do see the support for the safety for police officers and our security people to go there and train.
Thank you. Mr. Chesmore.
Thank you so much for the question. So my family probably won't like my answer because my father is a member of the NRA, but we see very differently on this issue, as does my cousin who's a trap shooter. I actually do support the park's decision to close this gun club. We must evaluate the toxic runoff from the lead, as well as do the adequate environmental impact studies before we can really have the conversation over seeing if we can reopen any such recreational facility. We must put the environment and the park's mission first above any of our own concerns. I'm a biker, but I understand as well that we must first prioritize the mission, which is to perpetually preserve our parks. And we can't do that if we're allowing lead runoff. We can't do that if we're causing noise disturbance, sound disturbance to deter our patrons in the parks. And that's why I support the park's decision on this issue, and I actually want to support more comprehensive gun reform so that we can actually end much of the militarization of our police in the East Bay Regional Parks District. As a protester with the Black Lives Matter movement, I understand firsthand the issue of civil rights being violated by our police force. And if Congress could pass a law to actually pass gun reform, they've been very behind because we've been asking for it.
Thank you very much. And now it's time for the candidates to make their closing statement. And we'll start with Ms. Corbett.
Thank you very much, and I especially want to thank the League of Voters for allowing us this platform today. You are very busy with all the initiatives on the ballot, and thank you for that. I take this position quite seriously. The East Bay Regional Park District has a very important mission, and that is to protect the legacy of the East Bay environment. Back in the 30s, some very thoughtful people, well, that's not a very good way to say it, but some very thoughtful people determined it was important for us to protect the legacy of our parks and the uniqueness of the East Bay. And I think they decided the right thing. I'm very honored to have the support of several people for this race. Because I've been a strong environmentalist, I'm the only candidate in the race to be endorsed by the Sierra Club. Because of my many years of progressive service, fighting for families and fighting for seniors, and insisting upon quality education, I have the support of the Democratic Party, the only candidate endorsed by the Democratic Party in this race. I'm also endorsed by Mayor Libby Schaaf and Mayor Pauline Cutter and Mayor Barbara Halliday, and also Senator Lonnie Hancock and Senator Bob Wojtkowski and Assemblymember Bonta. I'm very, very proud to have the support of these individuals who also have spent so much time in public safety. We have some great choices, but I do hope, based on my experience and my passion for the parks, you will decide to vote for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Chesmore.
I'm running because I was tired of the inequity in our parks, and I believe that our parks can play an integral role in combating many of the issues that we see the second we walk outside the City Hall in Oakland. Issues in public health, issues in violence, drugs, gangs, dismal dropout rates in high schools. The parks and having corpses discovered in our parks, that's not really helping. And I want to bring attention to that issue, and that's exactly why I'm running. I was tired of the social inequity in our parks, and as the only Oakland candidate, endorsed by Mayor Tricia Spencer of Alameda, former State Assemblyman Tom Amiano, by members of the Oakland City Council, such as Desley Brooks, as well as members of Oakland Unified School District, Shanti Gonzalez, progressive voices. I believe that, I was also endorsed for my environmental platform by the Alameda County Green Party, the most progressive voice when it comes to environmental justice and sustainability. So if you believe in advocating against climate change, if you believe in changing the status quo of our parks, I would absolutely love your vote. Daniel Chesmore, 1S. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Sanders.
Yes. East Bay Regional Parks is, I think, is one of the better ran park districts in the country. And seeing that and knowing that, I believe that if we worked a little harder, we can make it even better, and it do need to be better. One of the issues that I have is that the diversity in the parks, men and women, we have hired a lot more women into the parks, which is good, and giving them a chance and their children opportunity to get to know what's out there, what the parks are all about. The wildland parks, we know about city parks, but the wildland parks, there are foxes and deers and people on horseback and all kinds of things, and cows, and all these things are in the parks. But a lot of the inner city youth don't get a chance to experience that. And I would try to help champion that through, once again, the faith-based community, the Boys Club, all of the groups that are handling young people to help them to get out into the park. Also, encouraging seniors, bus trips. I'm a senior now myself, so we go out and walk the parks and know what's going on in the parks. The endorsements that I have, Mr. Doug Seiton, who I've worked with the Martin Luther King Rally Committee. We put on a rally every year, and the parks support that to help bring young people to the rally, and also at the chance to inform them about the parks and what's going on in the parks. We need more efforts like that to get the public to know about the parks and get them involved in the parks so that it can service everyone. The diversity in the parks is very necessary. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Oakland, I want to thank you, the candidates, for running for this office and for your participation this evening. I also want to thank the audience for coming to meet the candidates and proposing thoughtful questions. For further information about upcoming forums, the candidates, and ballot measures, please visit the League's award-winning and easy-to-use websites, LWVOakland.org and votersedge.org. There you will find information about candidates and ballot measures and links to other sources of information about the upcoming election. Members of the League of Women Voters do hands-on work to safeguard democracy. While we never endorse a candidate, we are directly involved in shaping important issues to keep our community strong. If you'd like to be involved with the men and women helping make democracy work, it's easy to join the League. There is membership information on a table just outside of the hearing room, and you can also join using our website at lwvoakland.org. Visit us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Look for the League's Oakland Easy Voter Guide inserted in the October 5th issue of the East Bay Express. The deadline to register to vote is Monday, October 24th. If you have moved or changed your name or wish to change your party affiliation since you last registered, you need to re-register by October 24th. Online voter registration is available at the Secretary of State's website, sos.ca.gov, or we have voter registration forms available here tonight. Please stop at our table on your way out for forms and other informations. And remember to vote by mail or at the polls on Tuesday, November 8th. Encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to vote too. Thank you.
And thank you,
Thank you so
League of
much.
Women Voters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Closing remarks. Welcome, and thank you for being with us tonight, Monday, September 19th, 2016. I'm Bonnie Hamlin, a member of the League of Women Voters of Oakland. The League of Women Voters is a trusted membership organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. We do not support or endorse candidates or political parties. The advocacy arm of the League may take positions on issues such as ballot measures and legislation, but this forum is presented by the Voter Service and Education arm of the League, which does not take positions nor advocate for or against them. I'd like to remind everyone that the candidates have all agreed to participate under guidelines set for this forum. The guidelines are also posted outside this room. As a matter of courtesy, please turn off all electronic devices. Please be aware that campaign literature or other forms of campaigning, such as buttons and T-shirts, signs, are not permitted inside the forum room in order to maintain neutrality. We are videotaping tonight's program and broadcasting it through KTOP Channel 10. The video of this forum will also be available on YouTube for the broader community to access. You can find links to the video on our website, LWVOakland.org, or through votersedge.org. There were 3 forums on the agenda tonight. The first was for the position of member of the East Bay Regional Park District's Board of Directors, Ward 4. The third forum tonight will be for the 2 candidates running for the 2nd Ward position on the AC Transit Board of Directors, Greg Harper and Russ Tillman. The second forum this evening was to have been for the at-large position on AC Transit's Board of Directors, Chris Peoples and Darlene Jones. Both Mr. Peoples and Ms. Jones indicated in writing their intent to participate in the forum this evening a month ago. Just recently, however, Mr. Peoples needed to deal with a medical issue. He expected to be able to be here this evening, but this morning informed us that he was not going to be able to do this. We immediately spoke with our contact at City Hall to see whether we could reschedule the forum, but were told that there were not times available for us to do that. Given this situation, we have invited Ms. Jones to speak for 5 minutes this evening, with the understanding that her presentation will be televised and the tape of her presentation will be rebroadcast when the other 2 forums scheduled this evening are shown again on KTOP. When Mr. Peoples is able to do so, we will work to make it possible for him to have this same opportunity. And now we will hear from Ms. Darlene Jones. She will have 5 minutes to present a statement about her candidacy for the at-large seat on the Board of Directors of AC Transit. Ms. Jones.
Thank you, League of Women Voters of Oakland chapter. Thank you for your wonderful invitation, and I've said a prayer for Mr. Peoples. I am Darlene C. Jones, running for the AC Transit Board of Directors at large. My educational background is I've attended 4 years of college at the College of New Jersey at Trenton. I also hold a certificate of completion in labor studies from Laney College here in Oakland. My qualifications for the board are as follows: 2 years in the maintenance department at New Jersey Transit, and 21 years of serving the Bay Area as a bus operator at New Jersey AC Transit District. I will take the 23 years of training, boardrooms, and union meetings, and all my expertise to uplift the voices and the questions that continue to go unheard even today at AC Transit. I work with many senior groups in the community, and I will help them with keeping their independence by making sure that the buses return to their neighborhood. AC Transit still faces financial challenges after all these years. Resolving these issues will be my first priority. If you give me your vote, I will give you my very best abilities and 110% commitment to meet the transportation needs of the Alameda Contra Costa Transit District. I humbly thank everyone who has previously endorsed and or voted for me. I am endorsed by the Green Party. I am endorsed by the Honorable Javanka Beckles of the City of Richmond, and I'm endorsed early by the East Bay Stonewall Democratic Club. I would like to thank everyone for coming out this evening, and I would like to thank the League of Women Voters again for allowing me this opportunity to speak. Thank you.
On behalf of the League of Women Voters, I want to thank Ms. Jones for running for this office and for her participation this evening. I also want to thank the audience for coming to meet her. For further information about upcoming forums, the candidates, and ballot measures, please visit the League's award-winning and easy-to-use websites lwvoakland.org and votersedge.org. There you will find information about candidates and ballot measures and links to other sources of information about the upcoming election. Members of the League of Women Voters do hands-on work to safeguard democracy. While we never endorse a candidate, we are directly involved in shaping important issues to keep our community strong. If you would like to be involved with the men and women helping make democracy work in Oakland, it's easy to join the League. There is membership information on a table just outside this hearing room, and you can also join using our website at lwvoakland.org. Visit us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Look for the League's Oakland Easy Voter Guide inserted in the October 5th issue of the East Bay Express. The deadline to register to vote is Monday, October 24th. If you have moved, changed your name, or wish to change your party affiliation since you last registered, you will need to re-register by October 24th. Online registration is available at the Secretary of State's website, sos.ca.gov, or we have voter registration forms available here tonight. Please stop at our table on the way out for forms and other information. Remember to vote by mail or at the polls Tuesday, November 8th. Encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to vote too. Thank you. Absolutely. I think we'll try to start at about quarter after. Russ is here and Greg is here, so. That means you start, yeah.
Going? Uh-huh. Oh, okay.
Welcome, and thank you for being with us tonight, Monday, September 19th, 2016. I'm Bonnie Hamlin, a member of the League of Women Voters of Oakland. The League of Women Voters is a trusted membership organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. We do not support or endorse candidates or political parties. The advocacy arm of the League may take positions on issues such as ballot measures and legislation, but this forum is presented by the Voter Service and Education arm of the League, which does not take positions or advocate for or against them. I'd like to remind everyone that the candidates have agreed to participate under guidelines set for this forum, and the guidelines are posted outside this room. As a matter of courtesy, please turn off all electronic devices. Please be aware also that campaign literature or other forms of campaigning, such as buttons and T-shirts and signs, are not permitted in the forum room in order to maintain neutrality. We are videotaping tonight's forum and broadcasting it through KTOP Channel 10. The video of this forum will also be available on YouTube for the broader community access, and you can find links to the video on our website, lwvoakland.org, or through votersedge.org. There were 3 forums on the agenda tonight. The first was for the position of member of the East Bay Regional Park District's Board of Directors, Ward 4. The second and third forums this evening are for positions on the AC Transit Board of Directors. The second was for the at-large position, and now we are going to do the forum for the 2 candidates running for Ward 2 on the AC Transit Board of Directors, Greg Harper and Russ Tillman. Ground rules. Let's go over them. Each candidate has 1.5 minutes for opening remarks. The order in which the candidates will speak was determined by drawing lots. The timekeepers will signal the candidates with colored signs marked 30 seconds and stop. And as audience members arrive, our volunteers provide cards for submitting written questions. The questions are screened to avoid duplication and personal attacks. The order of answering the questions will be alternated, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question. Again, the timekeepers will signal the candidates. There will be no separate rebuttals, but you may choose to use some or a part of all of one of your minutes to rebut a response of the other candidate. Following the questions, each candidate will have 1.5 minutes for a closing statement. And now let's begin this forum with our first candidate, Russ Tillman.
Thank you. I'm Russ Tillman, and I'm running for AC Transit Board of Directors. And the reason I'm running is because AC Transit has a very important job to do, and from what I've seen, they really aren't doing the best job at it. In particular, buses aren't showing up on time. There's a major problem with the buses showing up in pairs, where instead of 1 bus every 10 minutes, you get 2 buses every 20 minutes. And that's extremely wasteful. It wastes people's time, it wastes money, it wastes energy. And there are known ways to fix this problem, and AC Transit has known about them for years and for some reason refuses to do them. Instead, they put all their effort into these bus lane projects, such as the Bus Rapid Transit Project, and they claim that those are green. They're not. I was able to show that the bus lane project in Fruitvale will take several thousand years before it would break even and actually do something positive for the environment. And so I'm here because I would like to see things change and get better, and I think they can. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Harper.
Thank you, and thank the League for this opportunity. It's very important. I have been the incumbent for the last 16 years, and people ask me, why are you doing this again? Simple answer is, I love it. Transit is a very complex, multivariable problem that's taken a long time for me to even begin to grapple, and now I think I have it sorted out totally and have begun working on a number of things I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to start with 16 years ago because I can't even remember that far back, but starting about 12 years ago, I realized that there had to be a key performance indicator for AC Transit, and it was increase in ridership. that nothing else could satisfy if AC Transit could not progressively increase ridership. And I started pulling for that as a performance parameter, overarching performance parameter. The problem was you had to know what your ridership was. And so we had to get a lot of technology in place to pick up the data to do that. And over the last 12 and 8 years, we've got that. I've also realized that real-time arrival was very important to riders, and I pushed the real-time arrival stuff and Clipper Card, in which riders could ease on there. And so all of these things I started pushing long ago in terms of making AC Transit more accessible and easier for riders to use.
Thank you very much. Now we'll start with the questions. Mr. Tillman, you'll be the first responder to the first question. How does AC Transit do long-range budget plans when so many variable sources of funding and only 14% of AC Transit's revenue come from fares?
Well, some of those revenue sources, I believe, are fairly stable. I mean, there are laws that were passed, tax measures, and so forth. I know they have to periodically repass some of those. But, the citizens have been pretty good about giving AC Transit money. I mean, they get 86%, as you said, of the operating expense comes from these various things. It's sales taxes is a lot of it, and excuse me. And so this is something that just, they work with the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, which disperses a lot of the money. And just like any other transit agency in the Bay Area, they have to cooperate.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Harper, would you like to answer that question? How does AC Transit do long-range budget plans with so many variable sources of funding and only 14% of AC Transit's revenue coming from fares?
Well, Russ is right in that we have a very good track record for knowing how stable those other forces are. Now, when you have a 2008-9 recession, that took a hit out of the tax revenues, and that's one of the reasons we had to cut cut so much service. And one of the things I learned from that is that you always have to be able to say that you've only got out enough service such that in any kind of an even mild downturn in the economy, you would be able to say, we're keeping the service in place. And that's something we didn't have with 2008. That was a major thing. But that's something that ongoing forward, AC Transit is going to be, and if I have my way, and I'm the finance chair, is going to be ensuring that if there's a bus on your street, it's going to take a whole lot for us to have to pull it out because of financial measures.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Harper, you'll be the first to respond on this next question. Do you support a high occupancy vehicle lane on the Bay Bridge?
I do. The Bay Bridge is, even more so than the Bay Bridge. BART is just totally over capacity. That's actually more important. And what AC Transit has to be able to do, what MTC wants us to do, is to step into that breach. And we're building a new Transbay terminal. I'm head of the organization, the Transbay Joint Powers Agency, that's doing that. And we've got 39 bays. We've got to put a lot of buses on that bridge in order to relieve BART. Has to be done. So, yes, in every way, we've got to have that high occupancy lane.
Thank you. Mr. Tillman, your thoughts?
I agree. I mean, I think that high occupancy lane is a very good idea. And you have to make sure, of course, that when you have cars in addition to buses in there, that you have some place for them to go when they get, for instance, to San Francisco, that they don't just clog up. And as you know, the streets there are not good during commute hours. So, I would support it.
Okay. Thank you very much. And you'll be the first responder on this next question. What can be done to ensure safe driving practices, such as not impeding the flow of traffic at bus stops?
Well, I mean, you have to have guidelines for what the bus drivers are supposed to do. And I mean, there's two parts of that question as I see it. One is in the existing environment where the buses are sharing lanes with cars. The other question, of course, is in cases where, for instance, in bus rapid transit down in Fruitvale, there are major issues where building the system has put bicyclists very much at risk. They've left 1 foot for bicycles between moving trucks and parked trucks, for instance. So I don't know what you can do about that at this point because the situation is sort of set in motion down there. But AC Transit, I think, has a very horrible record of being at all concerned about members of the community. And what they've done with the lack of bike lane down there, I think, is one excellent example of that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Harper.
Yes, there are three things that we've got to do and that we've started on. The first thing is we need to have state legislation that enables our buses to have cameras in the front to photograph the license plates of people who are blocking bus stops. San Francisco has that. We put that in the legislature this year. It wasn't able to get through given, a lot of other stuff. We're going to continue doing that. I'm pretty sure we're going to get it. The second thing we have to do is we have to make our buses fit our stops. We have far too many Arctic buses. And those 60-footers, when they pull into a stop, they block the thing, halfway through. That should just not be allowed. We got to get away from those 60s as much as possible. The other thing is to have far side stops, which means that if the stop is always on the far side of the intersection, that way a bus has the full intersection with which to pull into the stop. That way we don't have to use as much parking for the stop. We've got to get our cities to understand that no matter who is on the far side that doesn't want a bus stop, that city better want a bus stop.
Thank you very much. And if you would please respond first to this question. You mentioned that you felt that one of the most important things to measure the success of AC Transit was an increase in ridership. And so do you have some specific thoughts about how to increase the ridership?
Oh, do I? The big thing is the Trans-Bay potential. There's huge pent-up demand that's because of the BART problem, because of the congestion on the bridge that's always been there. We have to get the politics of AC Transit shifted from the bias to local service, which it has, and we have to start moving it onto Trans-Bay because that's going to produce a lot more riders than what we have. Next thing we have to do is we somehow have to move that ATU contract into allowing some part-time drivers to allow us to hire. Right now, we haven't been able to hire by contract part-time drivers for many years. There has to be a way we can pay part-time drivers enough to satisfy union demands because right now we've got to hire a driver for 8 hours at a time, which is why you have so many buses traveling around the midday with so few riders. We got to get past that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tillman, your thoughts about this?
Well, I think, first of all, AC Transit's ridership hasn't really been increasing much. I think over the last 20 or 30 years, it's actually been decreasing. And, part of the reason for that, I think, is because the ridership experience is not very good. Making the buses arrive on time, which they can do if they make the right decisions, which they have not done so far, that can help a lot. One of the things I would suggest considering is that because AC Transit is already 86% subsidized, potentially just look at making it free because a 14% improvement in efficiency due to improved scheduling might allow us to just get rid of fares and not have to need any more subsidies because AC Transit is almost entirely subsidized as it is.
Okay, thank you. And if you would answer this question first, please. Is the current District Parcel Tax Oversight Committee ensuring the voters' intentions regarding the selection of the members, the frequency of meetings, and the review of audits? So a question about the Oversight Committee.
Okay, I'm not actually too familiar with the inner workings of AC Transit. I look at AC Transit from the outside, and, I see the various things that are going on more from like a rider perspective. And that's where I see the problems. As a taxpayer, I pay taxes. I don't have any complaint with what AC Transit is doing in detail with my money. I just wish the buses would show up on time.
Thank you very much. Mr. Harper, your response to that question, is the current District Parcel Tax Oversight Committee ensuring voters' intentions regarding the selection of members, the frequency of meetings, and the review of the audits?
I'll go to the last because I'm very familiar with that. It's taken me 4 years, but finally I got an audit procedure in place just in the last year that now guarantees that Measure VV will indeed keep all of its money in District 1. That wasn't the case, I have to admit, before. But now I am proud to say that with the ongoing VV, we've got an audit procedure that truly guarantees that the money stays in District 1. I don't want to go into exactly the differences in the audit, but the other thing that I disagreed with is I think the statute, the Measure BV statute, gave the Oversight Committee total control over the audit and how to do it. And I was singular in staff and the board with that opinion. They thought, no, all the audit committee can do is go with the procedure that we've assigned it and determine whether or not the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed. I think that was wrong.
Thank you very much. And now, if you would answer this question, be the first to answer this question. How can AC Transit improve service and fill transportation gaps for seniors, youth, the mobility impaired, and low-income residents who rely on buses to reach essential destinations?
Well, when we get it, when the technology comes, the answer to all of that is what's called flex service. And we're now put in just about 18 months ago. We've done our program, a pilot project in Castro Valley in Newark, a flex service, because they were very ideally demographically situated for it on those kinds of reasons, and the demographics were there. And we're going to see how that works, because that's the real answer. Because each of those groups, when you think about it, they don't have the same problems. They really have very different issues. And so when you say seniors and youth, well, that's a different bus. That's a different thing. So in each of these cases, though, what a lot of times what they want is responsiveness. And in the cases of seniors and disabled, they want to be able to get almost as closely as you can to door-to-door service.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tillman, your thoughts?
Well, I think the important thing is for AC Transit to improve its overall efficiency because, as we know, it has financial problems from time to time. It has to get into scrapes with the unions and so forth, and has had to cut back service that was needed service for people at times. And I think a lot of this is just because it is not run in a very efficient manner. An example, I rode the 6 down from Berkeley, and there was another 6 right behind us on our bumper. The one I was on was jam-packed. I had to stand up. The one behind us was empty. And there's a way to fix that. And those are the type of things that I'm pushing for, is just improve the efficiency of the operation so you have the resources to provide services for people that they need.
Thank you very much. And will you respond the first to this particular question? What is the current status of bus rapid transit for Oakland, and do you have any concerns, and what do you think the benefits will be or have been?
Well, I was very involved in the process of making sure that bus rapid transit did not go up Telegraph into Berkeley because, we really didn't want it up there. And at least in Berkeley, it did not have really any advantages. It wasn't going to provide much of a speed improvement, was not going to provide an environmental improvement, and there were going to be a lot of negative things. Now, down in Oakland, I've pulled up the drawings for bus rapid transit down there, and the biggest concern I see is that they're going to kill some bicyclists, I think, because they've squeezed it into a very narrow area. They have 1 foot wide space for bicyclists to go down International Boulevard, and I think that's something that needs to be addressed. I think that was just nearly criminal to do that, and should be changed.
Thank you. Mr. Harper.
Yes, I want to take a little bit about the bus bunching thing. If you get on the first bus, I guarantee 90% of the time you're going to see 2 wheelchairs on that bus. Now, if you want to get rid of bus bunching, stop picking up wheelchair passengers or change the ADA to make it so that the driver doesn't have to go through a lot of stuff to properly secure a wheelchair. And you can stop bus bunching, because that's the main thing. The thing about BRT is this project, it was rated by the people at FTA. And there are a lot of really good transit evaluators and transit people to evaluate small starts projects, taking the $200 million we did from the federal government to do that. This project was ranked number 1 in the country. That was when they looked at what we were proposing, looked at the neighborhoods, looked at the demographics, they ranked it number 1. And they, in actuality, were asking that we do the BRT earlier and more rapidly than we even were able to do because of Berkeley.
Thank you. if you would respond first to this question. Are you satisfied with the current direction regarding the purchase of smaller hydrogen cell buses? Are electric battery buses a cost-efficient option?
Right now, electric battery buses are much more cost-efficient on a bus-by-bus basis. Hydrogen buses are still running us about $1.3 million each. We can pick up battery buses for about $800,000. There's a movement on the board right now. I'm part of it. In fact, Elsa Ortiz and I started it to get away from our hydrogen project. We've been with it now for all 16 years that I've been on the board. 95% of that money came out of the Department of Energy and the state. It wasn't operation money. We did our bit, though. We were greatly encouraged to do the stuff necessary to evaluate hydrogen. We've done that. We've been there. But now I think we have to get real about what are the buses we have to buy, because by 2040, all of our buses, by law, have to be zero emission.
Mr. Tillman.
Well, 2040 is a long time away, obviously. It's 24 years, I guess. And things are going to change a lot between now and then. You know, the economics, the volume of the buses that are made and so forth are obviously going to change. At the present time, and I don't have the exact numbers from inside AC Transit of the cost in these buses. However, in general with electric vehicles, the cost of the vehicle is often a major part of its carbon footprint. And so if you're trying to reduce emissions, you really have to look at the cost of buying and operating and maintaining the vehicle. And in a lot of cases, like, for example, with the Tesla cars, you're much better off to get something like a Prius that runs on fuel and is just efficient the way it uses it than getting an electric vehicle. So that's something to consider.
Okay, thank you very much. This, I think, will be our last question before we move on to the closing statements. And Mr. Tillman, if you would start with this. Do you think that AC Transit's marketing could be improved, and if so, how?
Well, I think first you have to have something to market, and I ride AC Transit. A lot of people I know ride AC Transit, and there's just the general horror stories. It's accepted that it's just sort of like it's a way to get from point A to point B, but it's not a very good way. And most people, I don't think, particularly enjoy riding it. They have to. They can't afford to drive, or for some other reason, it's their only option. And so I would say, first of all, make some improvements. The push to eliminate bus bunching is one of those things that can be done, has been done by other agencies, and they didn't have to stop picking up wheelchairs to do that. And so I would say, improve everything that AC Transit can, and then have something to market.
Thank you. Mr. Harper.
I think we have to recognize that the younger generation is mobile, and we need to really realize that with the communication skills that they expect and with the communication skills that we're capable of, we are able to use mobile and Twitter and all that sort of stuff. And for people who sign up for particular things on lines, our dispatch service knows all the problems that are taking place at any given time. And that should go out on an almost automatic basis, on a line-by-line basis, and say to someone who signs up for it, oh, you're looking at the 12 right now? Let me tell you about the 12 right now. That sort of thing needs to go out there. Also, you can use these mobile marketing services. I've seen them. Companies do them all the time, just in general in the promotion of things. I think our marketing department is adequate for people of my generation and maybe my kids' generation, but no longer.
Thank you very much. And now we'll go to closing statements. And Mr. Harper, you will go first this time, and you'll have 1.5 minutes for your closing statement.
All right. Well, I want to take 30 seconds of it to thank the League of Women Voters and put in something that I've always thought, but I've never been able to say too publicly, which is if all Californians knew the role that the League of Women Voters played in the redistricting reformation that went through, the League of Women Voters would have no trouble at all getting all the money they needed, because I know what role they played, and it was tremendous. And I think lots of Californians really appreciate that, but they don't know how key the League was in getting that measure through. There's 30 seconds. I hope you vote for me, everybody who's out there. I know that I've been there a long time, and I'm long in the tooth. But I look at these. I was on the Emeryville City Council for 12 years before that, and I was on the Bay Area Air Quality Management District for 9 years. These are jobs for me. I'm not a climber. You know, I don't move from one thing to another. I go where my interests are, and then I start learning. And once I start learning something that's complex, then I get involved, and then I start looking for policies that have to be changed, and I start trying to figure out how to change them. And that's what I enjoy doing. And at this point, I'm still enjoying that. I think this will be my last term here, but I hope I haven't worn you out.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tillman, 1.5 minutes.
Okay. Well, obviously, I'm running because I think some things should change. And my experience with AC Transit has been that they're not very receptive to listening to the community. And that, you know, certainly Berkeley, when we dealt with AC Transit over the bus lane issue, it was a very frustrating experience. And so when I look at the problems now with the buses bunching up, not showing up on time, things like that, and even AC Transit moved a bus stop over by where I live, and they admitted that they lied on the application to the city council and falsified the details of the application just so that they could move the thing. And these are the kind of things that I want to see changed. You know, I want to see an organization that listens to the community and that actually tries to solve some of the problems for the riders rather than going off on these bizarre projects like putting in bus lanes where people don't want them when they don't provide many benefits. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Oakland, I want to thank the two of you for running for this office and for your participation this evening. I also want to thank the audience for coming to meet the candidates and proposing thoughtful questions. For further information about upcoming forums, the candidates, and ballot measures, please visit the League's award-winning and easy-to-use websites, LWVOakland.org and VotersEdge.org. There you will find information about candidates and ballot measures and links to other sources of information about the upcoming election. Members of the League of Women Voters do hands-on work to safeguard democracy. While we never endorse a candidate, we are directly involved in shaping important issues to keep our community strong. If you would like to be involved with the men and women helping to make democracy work, it's easy to join the League. There is membership information on a table just outside this room, and you can also join using our website at lwvoakland.org. Visit us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Look for the Oakland's Easy Voter Guide inserted in the October 5th issue of the East Bay Express. The deadline to register to vote is Monday, October 24th. If you have moved or changed your name, you need to re-register by October 24th. Online voter registration is available at the Secretary of State's website, sos.ca.gov, or we have voter registration forms available here tonight. Please stop at our table on your way out for forms and for other information. Remember to vote by mail or at the polls on Tuesday, November 8th. Encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to vote too. Thank you. Something else that I'm involved with the League is this voter